It was supposed to be a normal school day. The classroom was quiet. Students writing, teachers walking past the hallway. Nothing unusual. Until Ms. Hartman suddenly stopped the lesson. She stared at a young girl sitting in the second row. A soft, innocent student named Emily. Emily had her hair neatly braided, with small clips shining under the classroom light. It looked simple, clean, beautiful. But Ms. Hartman's face twisted with disgust. She walked closer, slowly, like she was hunting a mistake. "What is this?" she snapped. Emily blinked nervously. "My mom did it. I like it." Ms. Hartman cut her off instantly. "No. In MY class, you don't like things. You follow rules." The whole class froze. Emily lowered her eyes, embarrassed. Her cheeks turned red. Then Ms. Hartman did something nobody expected. She opened her desk drawer and pulled out a pair of scissors. The sound of metal clicking made students look up in shock. "Ma'am, what are you doing?" one boy whispered. Ms. Hartman smiled coldly. "Today, Emily will learn discipline." Emily's body stiffened. "Please, don't," she whispered, her voice shaking. But Ms. Hartman grabbed her braid and raised the scissors near her head. Snip! A piece of Emily's hair fell onto the floor. The classroom went silent, like the air was stolen from the room. Snip! Snip! More hair dropped. Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she tried to stay strong. She didn't scream. She didn't fight. She just sat there, humiliated. Sometimes adults forget one painful truth. For a child, humiliation isn't discipline. It becomes a scar that stays for years. The teacher stepped back, satisfied. "There," she said proudly. "Now you look normal." Emily stood up slowly, trembling. Her hands shook as she picked up her fallen hair from the floor, like she was collecting pieces of herself. Then she ran out of the classroom crying. Her best friend followed her into the hallway and whispered, "Emily, call your dad." Emily wiped her tears. "My dad won't come. He's busy." Her friend said quietly, "Then make him free." Emily took out her phone and sent just one message. "Dad, please come. I need you." 20 minutes later, a black SUV stopped outside the school. A man stepped out. Calm, silent, deadly controlled. And the moment he entered the building, every adult in that hallway felt something terrifying. Do you think a teacher has the right to humiliate a child like this? Comment yes or no. I want your honest opinion. Emily didn't come back to class for almost 10 minutes. She stayed in the bathroom, staring at her reflection like she didn't recognize herself anymore. Her braid was ruined. Her clips were gone. Her hair looked uneven, like someone had ripped her confidence apart with scissors. Her hands trembled as she tried to fix it, but it was impossible. A tear slid down her cheek. Not because she cared about hair, but because she felt small, powerless, disrespected. When she finally walked back into the hallway, her best friend Lily hugged her tightly. "I'm sorry," Lily whispered. Emily's voice cracked. "She did it in front of everyone." Lily's eyes filled with anger. "She shouldn't be allowed to teach." Emily looked down. "She said if I tell anyone, she'll make my life miserable." That's when Lily grabbed Emily's phone and said something that changed everything. "Then let your dad handle it." Emily hesitated, shaking her head. "No, he'll get angry." But Lily replied firmly, "Emily, this isn't about anger. This is about dignity." Emily stared at the phone for a long moment. Then she typed, "Dad, please come. Something bad happened." She pressed send. And that was the moment the story truly began. Back inside the classroom, Ms. Hartman continued the lesson like nothing had happened. She stood at the board writing sentences, speaking loudly about discipline and order, while the entire class sat frozen, disturbed. A boy in the back whispered, "This is wrong." Another girl said, "Should we tell the principal?" But everyone was scared, because Ms. Hartman had a reputation. She didn't just punish students. She ruined them. Bad grades, public humiliation, detentions for small mistakes. Threats disguised as education. This is how toxic authority works. It doesn't need fists, it uses fear. Ms. Hartman turned suddenly and looked at the students. "Why are you all so quiet today?" she asked with a fake smile. Nobody answered. She smirked. "That's what I like. Silence." Then the classroom door opened slowly, and Emily walked back in. Her eyes were still red. Her hair was damaged. Everyone noticed, and it hit them again, what had been done. Ms. Hartman walked toward Emily like a predator who enjoyed the chase. "Well, look who decided to return," she said. Emily stood still near her desk. Ms. Hartman's voice turned cold. "Sit down. And don't bring drama into my classroom." Emily quietly sat. But this time, she didn't look down. She stared forward, breathing slowly, trying not to cry again. That small change irritated Ms. Hartman. She leaned down close and whispered so only Emily could hear. "You think you're brave?" Emily didn't answer. Ms. Hartman smiled. "I can cut more next time." Emily's hands clenched under the table. And then, Ms. Hartman made the situation even worse. She walked to the front and announced to everyone, "Class, today we learned a lesson." She pointed at Emily. Emily believed she could dress and style herself like she owns the school. Some students looked away in shame. But Ms. Hartman continued, louder. "So I corrected her." Then she added a line that made the room gasp. "This is what happens when parents don't raise their children properly." Emily's lips trembled. Her eyes filled again. But she forced herself to stay silent. At that exact moment, the school receptionist saw something through the front office window. A black SUV slowly parked outside the school entrance. The door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, broad shoulders, black jacket, calm face. He didn't rush. He didn't shout. But his presence felt heavy, dangerous, like the air itself changed. The receptionist swallowed. She had no idea who he was. But something about the way he walked made her nervous. She picked up the intercom and called the principal. "Sir, there's a man here. He says he's Emily's father." The principal replied casually, "Tell him to wait. I'll handle it." But the receptionist hesitated. "Sir, I don't think he's the type to wait." The principal sighed. "Fine. I'm coming." Back in the classroom, a student secretly started recording on their phone, just in case something happened again. Emily heard her phone vibrate softly in her pocket. A message from her dad. Only 2 words. "I'm here." Her heart started pounding. Her breathing got faster. She didn't know what would happen. But she knew one thing. Her father had arrived. And Ms. Hartman? She still thought she was untouchable. She stood proudly at the front of the room and said, "Now, let's continue the lesson." But outside the classroom, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Slow, controlled, steady, and every teacher and student who heard those footsteps felt the same thing. Someone important had entered the building. If a teacher humiliates a student like this, should they be immediately fired or given another chance? Comment your opinion below. Emily's phone felt heavy in her pocket. 2 words. "I'm here." Her heart started pounding so loudly she felt like the whole classroom could hear it. She didn't look up. She didn't smile. She just sat there, breathing slowly, holding herself together, because she knew Ms. Hartman was watching her like a hawk. And Ms. Hartman noticed something. That quiet confidence. That silent change. Emily wasn't broken anymore. And that made the teacher angry. Ms. Hartman walked between the desks, her heels clicking like a warning bell, then stopped right next to Emily. "Let me guess," she whispered. "You messaged your daddy." Emily didn't respond. Ms. Hartman leaned even closer, her voice cold and sharp. "Listen carefully, Emily. Parents don't scare me. I've dealt with hundreds of them." Emily's lips tightened. Then Ms. Hartman said the line that made Emily's stomach drop. "If your father shows up, I'll make sure you regret it." Emily's eyes widened. Ms. Hartman smiled like she enjoyed fear. You'll get detention every day. You'll fail this class. And I'll tell every teacher you're a problem." Emily's fingers curled into a fist under the desk. She tried to hold her tears. But her chest hurt. Because it wasn't just bullying. It was a grown adult threatening a child. Some people don't just want control. They want to destroy anyone who challenges their power, especially someone smaller than them. A boy in the front row, Jordan, finally couldn't stay silent anymore. He raised his hand. "Ma'am, you can't threaten her like that." The classroom froze. Miss Hartman slowly turned her head toward him. The kind of slow turn that made everyone nervous. She walked toward Jordan, staring him down. "And who gave you permission to speak?" she asked softly. Jordan swallowed. "It's just wrong." Cutting her hair. Before he could finish, Miss Hartman slammed her hand on his desk. Bang! Jordan flinched. "You don't tell me what's wrong," she hissed. "You don't tell me what's right." Jordan's face turned red with embarrassment. Miss Hartman pointed at the door. "Get out. Go stand in the hallway until I decide what to do with you." Jordan hesitated. And then Miss Hartman said something terrifying. "Now." Jordan stood up slowly and walked out. The whole class stayed silent, because they knew Jordan had just become the next target. Miss Hartman looked around the room with a satisfied smirk. That's what happens when students forget their place. Emily felt something burning inside her. Not anger, but something deeper. A need to protect herself. A need to stop being treated like nothing. Miss Hartman returned to the front, picked up her marker, and continued teaching like the room wasn't falling apart. But now, students weren't listening. They were watching the door. Because the footsteps in the hallway were getting louder. In the main office, the principal was standing behind the front desk, forcing a polite smile. The receptionist pointed toward the entrance. The man was standing there. Not yelling. Not impatient. Just waiting. But his eyes looked like steel. The principal stepped forward. "Hello, sir. I'm Principal Reynolds. How can I help you?" The man didn't offer his hand. He didn't smile. He simply asked, "Where is my daughter?" His voice was calm, but it carried weight. The principal blinked. "Emily." "Sir, this is school. You can't just." The man stepped closer, just one step. The principal instantly swallowed, because suddenly he felt smaller. And the man repeated, slower this time. "Where is my daughter?" The receptionist noticed something and leaned closer to the principal, whispering, "Sir, I don't know why, but he looks like..." The principal didn't even respond. He just forced another smile. "All right, sir. Come with me." The man followed him down the hallway. Teachers stepped out of classrooms to look. Students peeked through door windows. Something about this man's presence felt powerful, even before anyone recognized him, because he walked like someone who didn't need permission from anyone. Back in Ms. Hartman's class, the lesson was already collapsing. Jordan was outside in the hallway. Two students had their phones slightly raised, recording discreetly. Emily kept looking at the door, trying to stay calm, but her heartbeat wouldn't slow down. Then Ms. Hartman suddenly snapped again. "Emily, stand up." Emily froze. "I said stand up." Emily stood slowly, her knees trembling. Ms. Hartman grabbed a ruler and pointed at Emily's hair. "Turn around." Emily hesitated. Ms. Hartman raised her voice. "Turn around." Emily turned. The class watched, horrified. Ms. Hartman examined the uneven cut like she was inspecting a project. Then she said loudly, "Class, look carefully. This is what happens when someone comes to school trying to show off." Emily's eyes filled with tears again, but she refused to let them fall. Ms. Hartman continued, crueler now. "And if her father thinks he can come here and challenge me..." She paused, staring at Emily's face. "Then I'll cut it shorter." The class gasped. Emily's mouth opened slightly, shocked. "You can't," Emily whispered. "Oh, yes, I can," Miss Hartman replied. And she reached toward her desk drawer again, where the scissors were. Emily's breath caught. Students started whispering nervously. No way. She's gonna do it again. Emily stepped back. Ms. Hartman picked up the scissors. The metal glinted in the light. She walked toward Emily like she enjoyed it. And then, boom. A loud knock came from the classroom door. Every head turned. Ms. Hartman stopped mid-step. The door opened slowly. The principal stood there, pale and sweating. And behind him was the man. Tall, broad, calm. His eyes scanned the classroom like a silent storm. Ms. Hartman forced a smile. Principal Reynolds, what is this? You're interrupting my lesson. The principal stuttered. Mms. Hartman, this is Emily's father. The man stepped forward, and the moment he entered, the air changed. Even the students who didn't know him felt it, because this wasn't a normal parent. This was a man who looked like he had handled danger his entire life. Ms. Hartman lifted her chin arrogantly. Well, Mr. Whoever you are, your daughter clearly needs discipline. The man didn't even look at her at first. He walked straight to Emily. Emily's tough mask broke instantly. She rushed forward, hugging him tightly. Her shoulders shook. The man gently held her head, whispering softly, It's okay. I'm here now. Then he slowly looked up. His eyes met Ms. Hartman's. And for the first time, Ms. Hartman's confident smile faded. Because the stare she received wasn't angry. It was worse. It was controlled, cold, and deadly calm. The man spoke. 4 words. Quiet, but powerful. Did you do this? Ms. Hartman swallowed. Still trying to hold her pride, she replied. Yes, I did. The man nodded once, slowly. Then he said, You cut a child's hair, in front of everyone, to humiliate her. Ms. Hartman snapped. It's called discipline. The man took one slow step closer, and the class held their breath. Because something in his calm felt like a warning. When a truly powerful man walks into a room, he doesn't need to shout. The room listens anyway. The man's voice remained steady. Then let me teach you discipline. And Ms. Hartman's face suddenly went pale. What would you do if a teacher humiliated your child like this? Would you stay calm or explode? Comment below. The room stayed frozen. Every student held their breath, because the man standing in the doorway didn't look like a normal parent. He didn't storm in screaming. He didn't demand attention. He simply stood there, quiet, controlled, like he owned the air around him. Emily clung to his jacket like it was the only safe place left in the world. Ms. Hartman tightened her grip around the scissors, trying to hide the small shake in her hands. But she wasn't scared of Emily. She was scared of what she felt. That pressure. That calm power. Still, her ego refused to surrender. She forced a laugh. So this is your father, she said loudly, mocking. Well, Mr. Father, your daughter disrespected classroom rules. The man didn't react. He gently moved Emily behind him, like a shield. Then he looked at Ms. Hartman. Just one stare. Not angry. Not emotional. Just controlled. And that stare alone made the teacher's throat tighten. The principal stepped forward nervously. Sir, perhaps we should discuss this privately in the office. But the man didn't even glance at him. He kept his eyes on Ms. Hartman. Then he asked calmly, Did you cut her hair? Ms. Hartman lifted her chin. Yes, I did. And I'd do it again if needed. The class gasped. Even the principal flinched. Emily whispered softly, Dad. But the man raised his hand gently, signaling her to stay calm. Then he spoke again, his voice still quiet. You cut a child's hair, without permission. Ms. Hartman rolled her eyes. Oh, spare me the drama. It's hair. It grows back. The man nodded slowly, as if processing her words. Then he replied with one sentence that hit like a hammer. Hair grows back, but humiliation becomes a scar. The classroom went dead silent. A student in the back lowered his phone slightly, whispering, Bro, who is this guy? Ms. Hartman felt the room shifting away from her. So she tried to fight back with louder authority. Everyone back to work, she snapped at the students. This is none of your business. But the students didn't move. For the first time, they weren't scared of Ms. Hartman anymore. They were watching the man. Because his presence felt like justice entering the room. Sometimes, the most powerful moment in life isn't when someone punches back. It's when they stand calm and still completely destroy the bully's confidence. The man stepped forward slowly. Ms. Hartman instinctively stepped back. Not much, just a tiny half step. But everyone noticed. He looked at the scissors in her hand. Then he looked back at her face and asked, "Do you enjoy humiliating children?" Ms. Hartman's eyes widened. "How dare you?" The man didn't raise his voice. Instead, he lowered it. "That's not an answer." Now Ms. Hartman started to panic internally. She pointed toward Emily. She was showing off. She came to class with that ridiculous hairstyle and distracted everyone. One student spoke up. "No, she didn't." Another student added, "Emily didn't even talk today." Ms. Hartman snapped, "Shut up." But suddenly, students started defending Emily. One by one. "She didn't do anything. You're always bullying kids. You cut her hair in front of us." Ms. Hartman's face turned red. Her control was slipping. She turned to the principal. "Are you going to do something?" The principal looked terrified, because he didn't want trouble with the teacher. But he also didn't want trouble with the man who just walked in. The man finally turned to the principal, and his eyes were sharper now. "Do you allow this in your school?" The principal stuttered. "And no, sir. We didn't know she." The man interrupted him. "You didn't know because you didn't look." The principal went silent. Then Ms. Hartman tried her last weapon, the victim card. She shouted, "This man is threatening me. You're all witnesses." But the man didn't move. He didn't flinch. He simply replied, "Threatening? No. I'm teaching you something you never learned." The teacher's voice broke slightly. "You can't talk to me like this. I'm an educator." And the man answered instantly, "No, you're not. You're a bully with a classroom." The entire class gasped. Ms. Hartman stood speechless for a second. Then, in desperation, she raised the scissors again. Not to cut Emily, but to look powerful. The man's eyes instantly sharpened. He took one step. Not aggressive, not violent, but fast enough to show he was not playing. Ms. Hartman froze. The scissors lowered slightly. And in that moment, everyone realized this teacher was only powerful when children were alone. But in front of a father like this, she was nothing. Outside in the hallway, teachers were gathering now. They were whispering. Students were peeking out of doors. Because rumors were spreading fast. "There's a man in Ms. Hartman's classroom. He looks famous. He looks like some action star." One staff member pulled out a phone, zoomed in on the security camera feed. Their eyes widened. "Oh my God!" They ran to the principal's assistant and whispered, "Do you know who Emily's father is?" The assistant squinted at the screen, then froze. That's Steven." Inside the room, the man leaned down toward Ms. Hartman and said calmly, "You will apologize, right now." Ms. Hartman laughed nervously. "I'm not apologizing to a student." The man replied, "Then you'll apologize to the world." And at that moment, the classroom door opened again. A staff member stepped in, shaking. "Principal Reynolds," she whispered. The principal turned. "What is it?" The staff member's voice cracked. "Sir, you need to see this." She showed him her phone. A Google image. A photo of the same man. The principal's face went white, because the name under that photo read, Steven Seagal. If you were in that classroom, would you speak up like those students? Or would you stay silent because of fear? Tell me honestly. The principal's face had turned pale. His hands were shaking as he stared at the phone screen. Steven Seagal, a world-famous action legend. a martial artist known for discipline. And now, a father standing in this classroom, calm, silent, and deeply disappointed. Principal Reynolds swallowed hard. "Mr. Seagal," he whispered. Miss Hartman's confident expression instantly cracked. At first, she didn't understand. "What did you say?" she asked, her voice suddenly softer. The principal didn't answer her. He stepped closer to Steven, forcing a nervous smile. "Sir, I had no idea it was you. Please, we can handle this privately." Steven's eyes remained on Ms. Hartman. His voice was quiet, but it sliced through the air like a blade. "No. This doesn't happen privately. This happened in front of children. So it ends in front of children." The whole class went silent again. Even students who didn't recognize him felt something powerful about that line. Some people only bully others because they believe nobody will expose them. The moment consequences arrive, the bully collapses. Ms. Hartman started backing up slowly, like her legs forgot how to stand proud. "Listen, I didn't know she was your daughter," she stammered. Steven raised an eyebrow. "So if she wasn't my daughter, it would be okay?" Ms. Hartman froze. Her lips opened, but no words came out. Steven turned slightly toward the class. "Did she deserve what happened to her?" he asked. Students looked at each other nervously. Ms. Hartman snapped at them. "Don't you dare!" Steven's head turned sharply, and Ms. Hartman stopped talking instantly. The teacher's mouth stayed open like she forgot how to breathe. Steven asked again, calmly, "Did she deserve it?" A brave girl stood up. "No, sir." Another student stood up too. "She didn't do anything." Then Jordan, the boy who was punished earlier, spoke from the hallway doorway. "She threatened us, sir." Now the room exploded with truth. Students started talking over each other. "She humiliates kids. She cuts people down. She told Emily she'd regret calling her dad. I recorded everything." Ms. Hartman's face turned red with panic. "Lies. They're lying," she yelled. Principal Reynolds tried to calm it down. "Ms. Hartman, please." But Steven lifted one hand. "Not aggressive. Just a signal." And the whole room went quiet like someone pressed pause. Steven looked at Ms. Hartman and asked a simple question. "Why did you do it?" Ms. Hartman shook her head. "It was discipline. She was distracting." Steven interrupted. "No." He pointed to Emily's uneven hair. "That's not discipline. That's humiliation." Ms. Hartman's voice began breaking. "Sir, I'm a teacher. I have rules. They must obey." Steven nodded once, slowly. "Yes, they must obey rules. But you must obey the law." Ms. Hartman blinked. Steven continued, still calm. "You touched a child without permission. You cut her hair without consent. You threatened her. You abused authority. And now," Steven took one slow step forward, "you will face consequences." Ms. Hartman swallowed hard. For the first time, she looked genuinely afraid. She tried to regain control. "You can't do anything to me. I have connections." Steven didn't even react. He simply turned to the principal. "Call the district supervisor. Right now." The principal hesitated for half a second, then nodded immediately. "Yes, sir. Yes. Right away." He rushed out of the room, almost running. Ms. Hartman shouted, "Are you serious? You're choosing him over me." But nobody answered her, because now everyone had realized one truth. Ms. Hartman didn't have power. She had permission. And that permission had just been taken away. Bullies don't lose because someone hits them. They lose when the world finally stops protecting them. Emily stood behind her father, wiping her tears. Steven looked back at her. Softly, he said, "Look at me." Emily looked up. Steven smiled faintly. "This doesn't make you ugly. It makes you stronger." Emily's chin trembled. "But my hair," Steven replied. "Hair grows. But confidence." He paused. "That's what we protect." Ms. Hartman scoffed nervously, trying to hide fear. "Oh, please. You're acting like I committed a crime." Stephen's eyes hardened. "You did." The teacher's breath stopped. Steven continued. "In life, there are two kinds of adults. One who protects children, and one who breaks them." He pointed at her. "You chose the second." Suddenly, a staff member entered with a tablet. "Sir, the security footage is saved. And a parent outside is asking what's happening. People are recording." Ms. Hartman's eyes widened in horror, because now she understood. This wasn't just a classroom situation anymore. This was going to become public. And Steven didn't even need to threaten her. The truth itself would destroy her. Steven looked at her one final time and said, "You wanted to teach my daughter discipline. Now you will learn it." And just then, Emily's phone buzzed. A notification. Someone had already posted the video clip online. The caption read, "Teacher cut student's hair in class. Father arrives." The video had thousands of views already. Ms. Hartman's knees weakened. She whispered, "No, no, no." Do you think public exposure is the best punishment for abusive teachers? Or should it stay private inside the school system? Comment your opinion. The hallway outside the classroom started filling up. Teachers, staff, even students from other rooms quietly gathered near the door, trying to understand what was happening. Whispers moved like wildfire. "Is that really him? That looks like Steven Seagal. No way, why would he be here?" And inside the classroom, Ms. Hartman's world was collapsing in real time. She stood frozen, clutching her ruler like it could save her. Her confident face had melted into fear, because the truth was spreading faster than she could stop it. The staff member who had saved the footage stepped back and said quietly to the principal, "It's already on social media, sir." The principal's eyes widened. "How fast?" The staff member swallowed. "Fast." Steven didn't react. He didn't panic. He didn't try to stop anyone from recording. Instead, he stood still, calm as stone, like he had expected this from the beginning. When someone is truly innocent, they don't fear the spotlight. Only the guilty beg for darkness. Ms. Hartman suddenly exploded. "Turn off those phones," she screamed. "Stop recording." She pointed at the students and tried to grab one phone. But Steven's voice stopped her instantly. "Don't." The word was quiet, but it hit like a warning shot. Ms. Hartman froze mid-motion. Her hand slowly pulled back. Her breathing was shaky now. Steven walked toward the center of the room. He didn't rush. He didn't show violence. Yet every step he took felt like pressure increasing in the air. He looked at Ms. Hartman and said, "You loved being powerful. You loved having children afraid of you." Ms. Hartman tried to defend herself again. "I was maintaining discipline." Steven nodded. Discipline doesn't require humiliation. Education doesn't require cruelty. Then he turned toward the class. All eyes were on him now. And when he spoke, his words sounded like something bigger than anger. They sounded like truth. "Kids, listen to me." The classroom went silent. Steven continued, "If an adult ever tries to break your spirit, you are not weak for feeling hurt. You are human. You feel pain because you have dignity." Emily's eyes filled with tears again. But this time, they weren't tears of shame. They were tears of being understood. Steven looked directly at her. "And you, Emily, you did nothing wrong." Ms. Hartman snapped again. "She disrupted my classroom." Steven's head turned slowly toward her. He didn't shout. He simply asked, "Would you do this to a boy?" Ms. Hartman hesitated. Steven continued, calm. "Would you grab a boy in front of the class and cut his hair as punishment?" Ms. Hartman's lips trembled. The entire class understood the meaning instantly. Her punishment wasn't discipline. It was control. And Emily was simply an easy target. Ms. Hartman tried to speak, but nothing came out. That's when the door opened again. Two adults walked in. One was the district supervisor. The other was a school safety officer. Their faces were serious. The supervisor looked at the principal. "We received an urgent call." The principal nodded quickly. "Yes. Thank you for coming." The supervisor's eyes then landed on Steven, and her expression changed instantly. Her eyebrows lifted. "Mr. Seagal?" Steven nodded politely. "Yes." Now every adult in the hallway fully confirmed it. The whispers became louder. "It is him. Steven Seagal." Some staff looked starstruck, but not Steven. He didn't smile for attention. He didn't acknowledge the fame. He stayed focused on one thing: his daughter. The supervisor turned toward Ms. Hartman. "Ms. Hartman, is it true you cut a student's hair?" Ms. Hartman's voice broke. "It was discipline. But the supervisor raised a hand. "No. We don't discipline children like that." Then the safety officer asked, "Were scissors used?" Ms. Hartman nodded weakly. The supervisor sighed. "Ms. Hartman, you are suspended effective immediately." The entire hallway gasped. Ms. Hartman stepped back as if she was hit. "No. You can't do this," she shouted. "I've been teaching here for years." Steven finally spoke again, his voice sharp now. "And for years, children have suffered in silence." That line hit harder than any punishment. The teacher's legs shook. She looked around the room. But nobody defended her. Not even the principal. Because now, nobody was willing to protect a bully. Sometimes the scariest moment for a bully is not punishment. It's loneliness. When they realize nobody stands with them anymore. Ms. Hartman looked at Emily one last time and tried one final attack. "This is your fault. If you didn't run to your father." Steven took one step forward, and Ms. Hartman immediately stopped talking. Steven's tone wasn't angry. It was final. "No. This is your fault because you made cruelty your identity." He turned to the supervisor. "I want this on record." The supervisor nodded. "It will be." Then Steven looked at the class again. "You all witnessed something today. Something wrong. But I'm proud, because many of you spoke up." He pointed at Jordan. "You stood up even when it was risky." He pointed at Lily. "You helped your friend." Then he looked at everyone. Never stay silent when someone abuses power. Ms. Hartman started crying. Not because she felt sorry, but because she got caught. She whispered, "Please, don't ruin me." Steven replied calmly, "I'm not ruining you. You ruined yourself." Then he gently placed his hand on Emily's shoulder. "We're leaving." As Steven walked out of the classroom with his daughter, the hallway split open. Teachers stepped aside. Students stared. Phones recorded. And the internet was already exploding. The clip was now trending, shared everywhere. Caption after caption. "Teacher humiliates child, father arrives." Steven Seagal defends his daughter. Abusive teacher exposed. Ms. Hartman looked like her soul had left her body. And the world was watching. Do you think Steven handled this perfectly by staying calm? Or should he have been harsher? Comment your opinion. By the time Steven Seagal and Emily stepped out of the school building, the story was already everywhere. Not just in the hallway. Not just in the district office. But on the internet. Thousands of people had watched the clip within minutes. Then tens of thousands. Then hundreds of thousands. Everyone saw the same thing. A teacher humiliating a child. A classroom filled with fear. And a father arriving, calm, controlled, but unstoppable. By sunset, the video crossed millions of views. The hashtag started trending. Hashtag justice for Emily. Comments flooded in non-stop. That teacher is evil. This is abuse, not discipline. Steven handled it like a real man. Every parent should protect their child like this. In today's world, truth travels faster than excuses. And sometimes, one video is enough to expose years of hidden cruelty. The next morning, the school was in chaos. News vans parked outside. Parents gathered at the gates demanding answers. District officials rushed into emergency meetings. Because now it wasn't just one case. It was a public scandal. Principal Reynolds stood in front of the staff looking nervous, exhausted, and ashamed. He spoke into a microphone. "We want to apologize to Emily and her family for what happened." But the public didn't want just apologies. They wanted accountability. And this time, the system couldn't protect Ms. Hartman. The district supervisor officially announced. Ms. Hartman was terminated immediately. Her teaching license was put under review. And an investigation began into every complaint that was previously ignored. Parents who stayed silent before now came forward, one after another. "This happened to my son too. She humiliated my daughter last year. I complained, but nobody listened." Now the truth was unstoppable. Meanwhile, Emily stayed home for a few days. She sat on her bed quietly, staring at her damaged hair. But this time, she didn't feel weak. Because for the first time, she realized the problem was never her. It was the adult who abused her. Steven sat beside her and gently said, "Look at me." Emily looked up. Steven spoke softly. "I know you feel hurt. I know you feel embarrassed." Emily's voice cracked. "I just wanted to look nice." Steven nodded. "And you had every right to." He paused, then said the most powerful thing. "Your hair doesn't define you. Your strength does." Emily wiped her tears. "But everyone saw." Steven replied calmly. "Good. Let everyone see that you survived." That moment changed Emily. Not because she suddenly became fearless, but because she stopped believing she deserved disrespect. Sometimes children don't need revenge. They need one thing: someone to stand beside them when the world is unfair. A week later, Steven returned to the school. This time, not in anger, but in leadership. The district invited him as a guest speaker for a special assembly about respect, bullying, power abuse, and how adults must protect children. The auditorium was full. Students sat quietly. Teachers watched carefully. Parents were present too. Steven stepped on stage and spoke into the microphone. His voice wasn't dramatic. It was real. He said, "I didn't come here as a celebrity. I came here as a father, and as a man who believes one thing: no child should ever be humiliated for existing." The room stayed silent. Steven continued, "Being strict doesn't make you strong. Being cruel doesn't make you powerful. True power is protecting the weak, not breaking them." People clapped softly. Some parents even cried. And Emily, sitting in the front row, finally smiled again. After the speech, Steven posted a short message online. Not to attack anyone, not to seek attention, but to deliver a lesson. Teach children with love, not fear. Discipline without dignity is abuse. That message went viral too. Millions shared it. Thousands of parents reposted it. And suddenly, this wasn't just a story about Emily. It became a global message. Respect matters. And justice is real when people refuse to stay silent. If you believe no child should ever be humiliated by a teacher, type respect in the comments. And tell me, should teachers who abuse kids be banned for life? Yes or no? Subscribe for more powerful fictional stories like this.